Hi, Deborah. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
We're really excited to celebrate Women's History Month in this way and put a spotlight on our clients. And we've worked with you for so many years, and you always have such amazing milestones to talk about and are impacting the industry in such big ways.
Thank you.
Well, the first question, who is a female mentor or role model who's had the biggest impact on your career or on you personally?
So that was a great question you asked because I had to think about that for a long time. I worked for some negative women in the industry, and so I was looking to go down that path. And I was just in Florida with family because my father just passed. And the stories that we talked about with someone who I realized was a huge mentor, which was my grandmother. Um, you know, born in the early 1900s, she escaped from Poland. She was one of many children. She was the only one born in the United States. The rest of her siblings, not all of them survived, but were born in the US. She was the first woman in the family to drive, which was not common for women back then. And this was in Boston. Smoked cigarettes in public, with her long gloves, and I actually have her cigarette holders.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, yeah, she was very classy and spoke her mind. And when I went to Emerson College, she lived in Brookline and I was in Boston. And every Sunday, I would get together and have brunch with her, especially after my grandfather had passed at that point. And we went to a French restaurant called Veronique's, which one of my cousins popped up like, "Oh my God, I remember going to Veronique's and having those conversations with your grandmother as well." Um, and was always very supportive because I was really outside of what the rest of my family did. My family was really into the sciences and went to college. My dad went to Harvard and MIT. My sister went to Smith. My mother went to UMass and worked in a lab. And then there was me.
I didn't realize that about your family. Wow. So
Yeah,
definitely a different path for you.
different path. Being Jewish, it's kind of unique because my family, on my dad's side of the family, on my dad's dad, fourth generation, I guess I'm not fifth generation American, came over right after the Civil War. Um, but she was a huge, very supportive of everything I did. My grandfather got obsessed with French at a very old age, and so in third grade, I was immersed in taking French lessons so that he and my grandmother could speak to me in French because they went to Paris and fell in love with the language. And so I didn't even realize it until I was older, but she was my biggest mentor. Wasn't someone in the industry. I wish I could say it was someone in the industry. And maybe that's why and that's why I've always avoided those questions because I'm always looking for someone. One of my first bosses who was female was horrific to work with. And I think I went to make sure I was the opposite, to always make it a very pleasurable and supportive role in the industry. So when I get invited to music conferences, I like to speak to people to make sure that they understand what it means to be a woman in this industry and to make sure that you do have a mentor.
Yeah, definitely. And I was also wondering too, do you still speak French today?
Un petit peu.
Because I know you've been to Paris quite a few times for conferences.
Yeah, I get intimidated. I get real, I was speaking with someone and I do better reading, which is a different grammar. So I studied Sartre and Camus en français, and which is a different grammar when you're studying, French existentialism. The grammar is different than when you speak. But I can listen and I can understand people. I can eavesdrop.
How did you sort of develop the entrepreneurial spirit to be your own boss and start your own company?
I was in-house at RCA Records and well, I worked at this other company where it wasn't a very healthy environment and people kept telling me to start my own business, but I was petrified. So I actually went in-house at RCA Records. Um, and Carol Fenelon was head of business legal affairs, and I adored her. And she was always fighting the battle. She was not respected. When she was strong in her negotiations, they called her a bitch. And I was like, what? I don't understand this. If it was a man, oh, how talented he is in negotiating. And she was the bitch. And she was brilliant, fucking brilliant. And she went from RCA to Arista and then went off to just doing other projects. And so when I was at RCA and I knew she was going to leave to go to Arista and Joe Galante was leaving and it was going to be Bob Jameson, that's when I was like, you know what? I do need to go out on my own. I need to be my own boss. I need to be in a work environment where it's okay that you do everything. When you were in-house at a record company, you only did what your job was to do. And you didn't do other stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm bored. And I started doing a whole bunch of other things. I got promoted over and over and over again within 18 months. It was ridiculous. I went from having a cubicle to an interior office to an office with a window within 18 months.
I'm not surprised to hear that because even now I feel like you're always raising the bar and looking for new challenges, bigger projects. I always see that in you.
Absolutely. I mean, people always say they can't believe I'm still doing what I'm doing, especially in sample clearances. But sample clearances led into doing other kind of clearances, and I think it's prepared us for the world of AI because AI, in essence, is a form of sampling. And so I always have, don't shut your eyes, don't put blinders on when something new and different happens. Sit down, evaluate, look at it, and discuss it. Even if you don't agree with it, have the conversations so that you don't shut the door on it. And I think that's the biggest thing is I am continuously having conversations with people to understand things before making rash decisions.
Well, you've had so many great career milestones that we're going to get into in a second, but I have to congratulate you on a very recent one. You won the Guild of Music Supervisors Award just this past weekend for Hip Hop Was Born Here, season one.
That was pretty exciting. I wanted to submit that more for the attention of the program. I think, yes, we had the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and I think people did what they could, but I think it was still lacking. We need to have a better understanding of a genre of music that was initially dismissed. Sampling was considered theft, and now all genre of music does it. And we need to pay homage and tip our hats and acknowledge the people that started it. I think that's why I really enjoy working with Rock the Bells and LL Cool J. He really understands that. And then with Omaha Productions, which is a production company that is just growing exponentially on the stuff that they're doing. So I had reached out to Paramount and everyone to let them know, and I said, when are we going to start season 2? And there's changes going on in the industry, so we kind of have to wait for the dust to settle. But I think there should be and can be easily another season, if not multiple seasons, because we're just touching the tip of the iceberg there.
And speaking of Women's History Month, I know there was an episode specifically focusing on the women of hip hop in season one.
And it was again just a scratch. It was just a scratch. And women still are not acknowledged as much as the men in that genre. And when you listen to them rap, what they're evaluating is what they're wearing and not what they're rapping. Who are they dating? How many babies do they have? Who cares? Acknowledge the music that they're creating. So we're not there yet.
Yeah, definitely a long ways to go with that. And I definitely am hoping for a season two. I know that you would do great work on it, and there's so many more just aspects of hip hop to explore in as many seasons as they'll do.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite or most memorable career moment overall, or something that really stands out to you that you go back and reflect on a lot?
It's so hard. I have been doing music clearances since 1990. It is
And DMG is
30,
celebrating 30
30
years
years,
this year.
exactly. And so when people ask me that, there's so many different things to think about, from clearing a sample a day for Justin Bieber, clearing Bob Dylan in a couple of hours. This is before his catalog was sold. But what about the excitement of when we did School of Rock and clearing Led Zeppelin and not being able to send the footage out? And we shot that scene with I don't know how many different songs, but we cleared the Doors, we cleared Stevie Nicks, we cleared Led Zeppelin. And that film is so historical. You know how schools called School of Rock, where kids are learning how to play music and be in bands. And I thought that was a really amazing thing. But then there's emotional projects for me. Tyler the Creator was there when my mother was in hospice, and he had no idea what was going on. And I'm doing Zoom meetings, and I'm bouncing, and he's like, he would say, I love having you on these phone calls, Deborah, because you're not just like analyzing, you're bouncing, you're enjoying the music. And it wasn't until the very end, my mother passed. Someone on my team took over the clearances, and then I came back and he had one more sample to clear. And I told him what was going on, and the tears are just streaming down my eyes. And I was like, you have no idea how much your music helped carry me through what I was dealing with. And it was really hard clearances. He sampled a song that he found on YouTube, but the song was originally, do you remember back in the days there were fanzines and they would put those little floppy plastic 45s?
Yes.
That's what he sampled. Someone took that plastic 45, uploaded it onto YouTube, and I found the band and I found the writers and we cleared it. And that was like, yes. So there's so many different highs in my career that it's hard to pick one. The defiant ones, working with Jimmy Iovine, working with Dr. Dre, working with Alan Hughes, who I'm working with again right now. I'm doing a documentary with Alan Hughes, was such an amazing experience. And we went through a lot of executive producers, but I was the clearance agent for those 3 years. And it was just phenomenal, you know? So to say one instance, I can't. I
It's
can't.
impossible. Yeah.
That's like saying to Paul McCartney, what's your favorite Beatles song you ever wrote?
I mean,
You
even
can't
for
pick
us,
one thing if you have some.
we nominate you for awards and it's impossible to narrow down what highlights to talk about to submit for you. So we're always very proud and excited that, you keep topping yourself.
And I look over my shoulder like the De La Soul, the fact that a whole generation now gets to hear music, and then they were on, the Tiny Desk performance. I mean, that's like this full circle thing. Like, and I had worked with De La Soul back when they first started with Tommy Boy. So there's so many amazing, great things that I can talk about my career. I am really lucky.
Well, switching gears just a bit, one of my other favorite parts of Women's History Month is supporting women-owned businesses. Do you have any favorites? That can be either companies in the industry or as small as, a local business in your town.
So I do go out of my way to support small businesses, um, but especially women. And so Lisa Brunson's a great example. She was like head of A&R admin at 300. She was at Def Jam before that. An amazing, brilliant woman. She created a candle company called OS Candles, and I loved her stuff. And she lost her job when 300 was swallowed up and they were cutting people and everything. She's expanded where it's got like those infusers with the reeds and everything. I went, oh my God. And I just buy stuff on a regular basis. And she's constantly like, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting a female-owned business. Susan Elnora is a jewelry maker, and Khaled wanted to thank me once for all this work I did. He's like, pick out a piece of jewelry. And I picked out a piece by Susan Elnora because and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is being facilitated through DJ Khaled's office. So I like to follow women, and I follow a lot of women on TikTok also that have small businesses.
Me too.
Um, there's a bake shop here in Delaware. We met this woman, and it's her business, but her husband, she puts him to work. We go to farmers markets, and she finally got a brick and mortar. And what's great about her is she isn't just a baker, but because of my family, we have a lot of food intolerances. Some need dairy free and nut free and all these different issues. And so I bought a whole bunch of stuff from her for my wedding and then again for my dad's service. But at her brick and mortar, she even goes above and beyond where dairy free is in one case, nut free is in another case, and then her regular stuff is in another case. She goes above and beyond. And those are the people that I want to support and have so much love and respect for.
Absolutely. And I actually really loved that story that you mentioned about the person who pivoted to candles because I feel like in the music industry, we put so much into our careers, but then it's so important to have those other outlets and interests and hobbies too, that sometimes turn into more than that.
Absolutely. I wish I had skills. I'm not creative or artistic. I don't, I've tried, like my sister, she crochets and she's pretty she's another person who's pretty amazing. She had a book of poetry published and sadly it was right at the time when she was diagnosed with breast cancer and she's gone through her 5-year treatment and she has another book that's coming out in October. The woman gets poems published on a regular basis. So she went to school for pharmacy to support herself to be a poet. And
Wow.
then she worked at Denver Health. And when she got diagnosed with cancer, they were not supportive. I'm like, screw them, come and work for me. So she does our bookkeeping and she does that to support to do her writing.
That's amazing.
And then like she'll go into like shops and she's like, oh, I can make that. And she looks at different things, then she makes them. I mean, and she's brilliant. She went into the sciences, but she's also creative. She's one of those people that is both scientific and artistic.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people like that. That's my sister. She's brilliant.
That actually gives me a great lead into my last question too, which is, so the National Women's History Alliance has a theme for this year. And so it's leading the change, women shaping a sustainable future. And that can be about any type of sustainability. And I know you and I were talking earlier about how you try and make the industry more sustainable and geared towards women and a positive experience.
So the only way I'm able to do that is with mentoring. And, DMG was predominantly a female based company. I did finally bring in a couple of men. We do have a few. Um, And so I try to mentor either with interns, Kat McLean Daly. I've been mentoring since she was at Universal Music. Um, because sadly, in the environment that we are living in now, it is even harder for women. Um, we were talking about the fact that a lot of women gave up having families and children to be able to stay on that path of having a career. I had a bouncy seat on my desk raising Curtis and created boundaries with my client saying, when it's dinner time, I'm not accessible. I need to sit down and be with my son and hear about his day at school. Um, it is sad that we are now almost living in a third world country where women's body and health has been discarded. And so I think what we need to think about as women is we need to be here even stronger for each other and be a mentor and give guidance and not you know what it's not even just open the door for someone anymore. You need to stick your hand through the door, grab them by the hand and pull them through the door. We cannot just give advice anymore. We cannot just be mentors. We need to help these women get jobs or there aren't going to be women in the work field. And based on the government we have right now, they do not want women working. There are universities for women to go to learn how to be a housewife. It's disgusting. The fact that I had a meeting this morning with someone where we had long conversations. I'm 60, I'm past menopause. However, it's not a topic we talk about, and it is dismissed when women start going through the change, hormonal change. And this woman that I've become friendly with has actually changed her, she's a nurse, she's changed her whole structure of her business to help women and to deal with that. And not to say, oh, just deal with the sweats or just, take a pill, but to how to change your lifestyle for that. We as women need to do more. We can't just talk the talk. We need to walk the walk.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much, Deborah. This has been such a great conversation, and I know everyone always loves hearing your perspectives and will learn a lot from this too.
Thank you so much for thinking of me.